So James, we had a great interview with Danny today. I mean, this is maybe the third time Danny's spoken with us, and every time I just I get eager. It's like I'm going to go out there and sell Zuza.
I know. I love what they're doing. I think, really few and far between right now are the fully processor agnostic software companies that are focused on agents and ISOs.
Right. And on helping them sell and their merchants sell,
And today, talking about email marketing, text marketing, and really, though, we hardly even really talked about that. I mean, really, it was just about the idea of omni-channel payments and pulling that all together for the merchant and giving some different examples of that. And then also, I'll give a little spoiler alert, but at the end of it, Danny gives a really cool offer to our listeners.
Right.
That's a first thing. It's a really, really cool. You're definitely going to want to check that out. It's pretty cool. So listen to the end of the interview. You'll get a good one there. And then Patty, tell us about the Insiders Report.
Well, the interchange battle is heating up. Amazon, I think we talked about a few weeks ago, was trying to ditch Visa in the UK. It backed off that plan, but U.S. retailers now seem to be going at it themselves and bringing up the issue with Congress.
I love it.
That's about all I'm going to say about that. So stick around and listen to what James and I had to say about that. And then, James, I know your question from the field was a little bit intricate. It got a little bit into the weeds, but you want to give folks a little snippet of what to expect?
Yeah, one of the more difficult ones I've recorded, actually, because it's hard to talk about legal issues on a podcast where you can't really talk about legal issues. So we talk about these letters that are coming from the state attorney general, specifically in New York and other states, about cash discounting and surcharging. And so I did my best to point you in the right direction about what to do and kind of more how to think about it from a high level. Obviously, you're going to have to engage an attorney or a consultant in that regard. But I think it's something you need to understand. If you have more than 20, 30, 40, 50 cash discount or surcharge accounts, your merchants are going to get a letter at some point.
Something. Yeah.
It's time to understand what to do about that. And then we're really excited to announce that our podcast sponsor, we have Valor Paytech, who our listeners are going to be very familiar with. And we worked with Valor, of course, last year for a long time. When the terminal shortage started, Valor had such high demand, still have such high demand for their terminals that it was kind of like, wow, do we really want to push this anymore? Now Valor is back. They have a steady flow of terminal supply. They're looking to add more ISOs. And it's really incredible, Patty, when I think about the beginning, when the first time that we talked about Valor on the podcast, we were like this brand new terminal provider. It's kind of like, okay, where's their place? And today, in my opinion, and from the conversations I've had, clearly the dominant industry leader right now when it comes to terminals in general. And then, of course, they're omni-channel because they have the terminal and they have the gateway and, all the other things that really work together there.
Really pulls everything together. Yeah.
It does. So I think especially for that smaller merchant account that you're selling, that's not looking for some crazy, robust, full feature thing. If they're looking for terminal, smart terminal, they're looking for a gateway that's going to work together with the terminal and all that. Really, really a fantastic solution. So once again, they can go to ccsalespro.com/Valor. We got the link back up again. So ccsalespro.com/VALOR. If you're not familiar with Valor Paytech, you will love it. Fully processor agnostic, fantastic terminals, amazing features, really great, simple gateway. So a lot of great features. We'll be talking more about them on the coming episodes for sure.
Yeah. Again, ccsalespro.com/Valor. So what do you say, James? Should we get into our podcast?
Let's go.
Welcome to the Merchant Sales Podcast.
Hey, everybody. I'm here today with my good friend, Danny McHale, who is the CEO at Zuza. How you doing today, Danny?
Good, James. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Fantastic. Yeah. So very exciting conversation today. Danny and his team are always working feverishly on the latest and greatest feature. They started out Zuza. We've talked before about processor agnostic point of sale, which really now is just kind of this one element in the larger platform and ecosystem that Zuza's created with e-commerce and online ordering and all these other things. So, Danny, it's been a little while since you were on the podcast. Give us a little update. How's everything going at Zuza? And give us the high level about this new marketing feature that's pulling these omni-channel things together a bit.
Excellent. Thank you, James. Thank you, Patty, for having us again. It's always a pleasure to be on your guys' show. A lot of good news, a lot of good, exciting things at Zuza happening. I mean, we had a 600% growth in 2021. We continue to dominate what we consider the market from a super app perspective. So as you know, Zuza is a software designed for the fintech space that does everything from POS systems to online ordering, e-commerce, calendar, mobile, smart terminals. I think last quarter we did more smart terminals than any other thing, which was pretty exciting. So being a true omni-channel platform, we continue to add features and products that help our sales partners win new deals over the competitors. So that's really the way we've kind of positioned ourselves in the market. Is we work with ISOs, agents, banks, tech companies, marketing agencies, you name it. And our goal is to make sure we equip them with the best software possible, to where as they're going out there against competing softwares, competing ISOs, competing brands, they're winning 9 out of 10 deals.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So, okay, so let's start this by zooming out a little bit and talking about omni-channel, because I know this word means a lot to Zuza. It's really the direction that you've taken the company. So, when you think about your most popular verticals, how do they accept payments today? How do they want to accept payments today, I should say? And how do their consumers want to make those payments? So I'm kind of just curious your thoughts today about, omni-channel payments. Where is it at right now and kind of where is it headed?
Sure. We always try to be ahead of the time at Zuza. We always look down the road 2, 3, 4 years and we say, okay, look, let's not, we view ourselves more as trend setters, not followers. So the one thing we've been honing on and preaching on the last few years, James and Patty, is we want to make it as simple as possible for a merchant to accept payments, right? Yeah. So we love hearing our sales partners say, you know what, I used to have this merchant specifically just on a credit card terminal, but now they're doing online calendar appointments, taking a deposit with a credit card or a debit card, and I'm making revenue there, right? So Zuza's philosophy is however the merchant needs to accept a payment. It could be an invoice, it could be online, it could be e-commerce, it could be online ordering, online calendar, credit card terminals, smartphones, POS systems, Android and Apple. We want to make it as simple and as easy for the merchant to accept payments, which also makes it as simple and easy for our sales partners to set them up as well. And the beauty of what I just told you, James, is everything I just described from our omni-channel platform is all powered by one centralized dashboard. So they don't have to have 27 passwords and logins to run a 100 location empire or a 1 location restaurant or hair salon, right? So that's always been our philosophy. Let's make it as easy as possible, as less friction as possible for the merchant and the sales partner to set someone up to accept payments.
Okay, so that, I mean, I get that, and then but I want to sort of drill down, if you don't mind, into this new marketing thing that you're talking about, feature offering. You have a merchant. Maybe they have a brick and mortar. Maybe they do some online ordering. Maybe they even do some telephone orders. How do you fit marketing into all of these different channels? And are merchants really looking for marketing that they can deploy across all these channels?
So marketing is one of the most undersold products, I would say, in the fintech space. I think marketing, if you're not selling it today, you need to be selling it or you're going to have problems down the road. So for Zuza, what we do, being a true omni-channel platform, and unlike a lot of our competitors, we have pretty much every software built in-house. So whether it's a gift card platform, invoicing platform, time and attendance, inventory, cash discounting, surcharging, it's all built on the Zuza rails. So we recently announced earlier this month or earlier in January, I should say, that we now rolled out Marketing 2.0. So Patty, what that means is anywhere the merchant is accepting payments, they could now reward their customers with points, promotions, gift cards, however they want to reward them, and capture their data and analytics at any one of our payment platforms. So that's through the mobile device, online, POS, you name it. A merchant now knows who's buying what, at what time, and what product is being sold. So we make it extremely easy for the merchant to remarket out to these individuals. And again, being all one platform, and all the solutions being baked into one. And that's, this is why we're one of the original super apps in the marketplace. It makes it significantly easier for the merchant to capture that data and then resolicit and remarket back out to them.
And so what you're saying then is basically what you're doing is offering ISOs and agents the ability to capture that component of the relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Adding another layer of protection, another hedge around their residuals, and more importantly, another selling aspect to their portfolio. You know, we'll talk about it a little bit here about some of the competing marketing solutions out there and how now our ISOs, agents, banks, VARs, you know, our resellers, how they now have a solution to go out and compete against new competitors that they never competed against before, right? So just really, it changes the landscape a little bit in the fintech world.
I kind of have two little follow-up questions here, Danny. So the first one is, I want to dig into this data component for just a minute and talk about the value of this, because I love what you said that, you know, something to the effect that if you're not selling marketing services today, you're going to run into problems down the road. And I think for a lot of our audience, they're kind of scratching their head saying like, what are you talking about? I sell payment processing. Why would it matter if I sell marketing? And so talk to us about data and why point of sale payment data, whether, you know, wherever the point of sale happens to be, online, mobile, whatever. Why is that payments data so valuable, and why are there so many PayFacs and large fintech companies that are leveraging that for marketing purposes?
I'll answer that question with a quick story. So during our beta stage in Q4, we had a cigar lounge that was using the Zuza platform. It was one of our ISOs here in Phoenix, Scottsdale metro area. And it was a cigar lounge that was using a point of sale system with Constant Contact, right? We all know who Constant Contact. Yep. It was either Constant Contact or MailChimp, don't quote me, one of the major marketing platforms. And he would send out emails and promotions throughout the months. When we moved him over to our marketing platform, we sat down with him. We said, listen, Andy, individual's name was Andy. We said, Andy, here's what you should do. Instead of sending out 10,000 emails to 10,000 people, you have a cigar cutting event this Friday night, and that specific cigar is a specific blend that certain people don't like because it's way too powerful. Why don't we, instead of sending out 10,000 emails, let's send out 500 emails and text messages to only the people that smoke Tatuajes, right? Only the Tatuaje smokers and buyers. So we filtered down to that list. We found out who those buyers were. We sent out a text message. He said it was his best event in 10-year history. In his 10-year history.
Wow.
So instead of sending out 10,000 emails, which a lot of those guys only do emails, we do text and email, okay? We sent out 500 to those individuals. I think he had like, I don't know, 30% show up, which was crazy because he used to run like 3, 4, 5%. So he literally canceled his other, like multiple other softwares. He was actually using a different gift card platform as well. So we migrated all his gift card data, migrated all his customer management data, migrated all his marketing campaigns into our point of sale. So now with one platform, he's literally running everything. He's about to cancel his WooCommerce as well. So we're migrating all his e-com store for all his cigar lighters, cutters, all that. So, you know, that's really the difference with our marketing is instead of a buckshot approach where you're just shooting, you know, at 1,000 different people, we can really hone in and find out who your top Pinot Noir drinkers are on Friday night between 9 and midnight, right? And advertise to those guys. Yeah. So that's really the big difference with us, James.
And I would imagine then you'd be doing the same thing, right? You know, I could envision like a pizza parlor, say. I know that's one of James's favorite examples, but you could have a pizza parlor that, you know, notoriously it's slow on Tuesdays. It can go through and figure out all the people, you know, who really like Strombolis. Let's just say that. Right?
Even better, let's talk about the good people that we know are going to heaven that like pineapple on their pizza.
That's my thing. I was going to say that. Thank you very much.
So if I've got a bunch of pineapple, a bunch of pineapple going bad Friday night, and I need to get it out of the door on Tuesday. Okay. Why let it go out? Why let it go bad and go to the dumpster on Friday night when I want to sell it on Tuesday? So I'm going to go in, see who my top pineapple pizza lovers are. Obviously, my name will come up, and I'm going to send out a text message to those guys at 50% off or buy one, get one free. Okay.
Hey, I'm there.
Exactly. So it's very specified niche marketing, and that's really what we're making it. You know, our philosophy is like, look, what if we can prove to you that our software isn't going to cost you money? It's going to make you money.
Make you money, right?
Well, then at that point, you know, it should be for the sales agent. It should be, well, wait a minute. I love this program, right? I love it. So
Yeah.
that's really our approach. And again, our philosophy is whatever the merchant needs. If it's marketing, gift cards, loyalty, time and attendance, inventory, cash discounting, calendar and appointments, invoicing, we bake it all into one platform, and then we let them pick what they want.
Yeah, and again, I think ultimately where the real value comes in with that, of course, is that data, right? Because the idea is, whoever has the data has the stickiness, so the idea might be, well, they could try to move to another platform, but they'd end up having to move to 3 or 4 different platforms in order to try to piece it all together. And then it's like, well, if I want to send an email out to everybody that bought this certain kind of pizza, well, how do I know that I have everybody? What if they bought it on an online order? What if they did it through the phone order? What if they came in and bought it? Well, that's where, you've got to have all that data unified. And then once you do, the problem is if you provide that, and I think to your earlier point, Danny, if you provide that data, but then you don't, enable the merchant to leverage that data to then grow their business, well, then what's the point? Why'd you collect all the data in the first place, right?
Right.
Absolutely. So Zuza has always been about leveling the playing field, James, right? That's why, if you remember the story, the history back in 2013, we wanted a solution that was designed for the small merchants and the mid-sized merchants, that they could have the tools that the big boys like the Amazons and the Walmarts and those guys have.
Right.
So step A, we really want to build the software that can help our merchants grow and kick those guys' tail, right? Yep. This was one of the pieces we identified, that most small merchants don't have access to their own data. The second thing was we also want to level the playing field for ISOs, agents, banks. We've been called the superhero by a lot of our partners, because we give them a tool that goes up against the big boys, right? That says, hey, you know what? I no longer am a prisoner in my own industry. I now can board on Zuza, they're processor agnostic. I can go anywhere I want, and the tools they give me, it's the same tools that the bigger boys have. So we make it easier for the merchants to compete. We make it easier for our resellers to compete by giving each one of them what they need to actually succeed in the industry. So you're absolutely right. That data is important, and then remarketing it out and making it easy. One other thing I do want to tell you, with our software, with our platform, there's already some preset templates, but there are thousands of preloaded pictures. So if I'm a bar and I just want to quickly do Budweiser, I could pull it, boom, attach it. It's literally click and drag, type a little message, set my filters for who I want to target, send out 500 text messages. Will take you 30 seconds. So we've made it that easy. We've also built what's called automated marketing. So if I know Tuesdays, Patty, they're my slow days, and I just want to send out 50% off coupons to my customers every Tuesday, I could set it once and I'll send it out every Tuesday. I never have to do it again.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so let's talk about, one of the things that's always kind of baffled me a little bit, Danny, I know you and I have had conversations about this in the past, is, kind of a lack of interest from like agents and ISOs a lot of times to sell solutions in general, but marketing in particular. And you mentioned this, you alluded to this earlier. It really always has kind of been interesting to me. So I guess I have a 2-part question. Number one, are you seeing a lot of interest from merchants? You've already picked on it a little bit, but talk about kind of the interest you're seeing from merchants. And then also when you think about your partners, your resellers, the ones who have kind of grabbed onto this, they're doing well with it. Give us a little insight. Like, how are they doing it? What's their focus like? Give us some insight there.
Yeah. It's been a 50-50 mix. The people that understand marketing, it's been a game changer for them. I mean, I told one of our partners that we're going on, I'm doing this show with you today. He begged me not to. He's like, I don't want anyone else to know this tool exists for people in our space. And I said, it's not going to work that way, buddy. But it's a game changer, because honestly, again, imagine walking into the merchant store and saying, hey, listen, I'm here to make you money, right? I'm not here, hey, it's no longer, let me look at your credit card rates, because I'm here to make you money. Oh, and by the way, if you want me to remove all your credit card fees, that we've got a cash discounting program, but I'm here to make you money. So far, and we're going to do a very detailed case study on it. But thus far, the amount of returns that are coming back from the texts and emails are huge. I mean, they're massive. It's much higher than what our partners are seeing with MailChimp, Constant Contact, 5-star, okay? Because all those programs they're nice marketing programs, but being a true point of sale system and an omni-channel solution, we know what that consumer is spending, at what time he bought it, what card he used, how he bought it, whether it was online, in person, or mobile. So we gather all that data so we can really filter down and send out the right message. That being said, we're seeing much more traction with the people coming in and redeeming the coupons and redeeming the QR codes, things like that. So people that have a background in marketing, they're running with this. A lot of the people that have no idea about marketing, James, they're definitely intrigued by it, and they are starting to sell it because of how simple we've made it. Okay, because really the merchant says, well, how do I market? Easy. Sell your products, and in 30 or 90 days, I'll be back, and let's look at who your top customers are, and let's start sending out coupons. Let's start sending out birthday cards. Let's start sending out whatever. Around the holidays, send out a text message saying 20% off all gift cards. You know, spend $80, get a $100 gift card. We had one customer in our beta do that last month. I think he sold about, I don't know, $7,000-8,000 in gift cards in 1 month.
Yeah,
that's remarkable for a small merchant to add $7,000-8,000 in gift card sales, new gift card sales in 1 month. I mean, that's game changing stuff right there.
So, are you finding that the ISOs and the agents? I mean, again, I know it hinges on their marketing expertise, of course, or their familiarity with it. But are you finding that more? I mean, I know, like you said, a lot of them just want to sell payment processing, right? So how are you selling this to the ISOs and agents?
The beauty of it is all of our software is on one platform, so it's already there. So if they're selling Zuza POS, they're now selling Zuza Marketing. Okay. And yes, we are getting, it's been one of the hottest items that we released. I can tell you that much. It's definitely been one of the more well-received product lines that we've released. So I think on our last marketing training call, we had at least a few hundred people wanting more information, more detail. So it's definitely been well-received. I think a lot of people are intrigued by it, James and Patty. We're talking to a lot of people who have been in the industry 10, 15, 20 years. They say, well, I didn't know I could offer that. And our answer is, well, you should, because your merchant is selling, 5-star. They're selling, which by the way, 5-star now does merchant services. They're selling Constant Contact. They're selling MailChimp. And we come in now and we're saying, look, take the revenue they're paying there, put it here, and add an additional revenue stream to you. Average merchant spends thousands of dollars a year in marketing, literally. So we're telling our partners, why don't you capture a piece of that, right? And then make it even more stickier. The big thing is, back in the days, James, I think you know my story. I had a bunch of, I was the largest Papa John's franchisee in the Midwest, or at least in the state of Michigan.
Right.
And I remember spending $4,000 or $5,000 a month on these little coupons, these Advil drops, whatever it was called. And we sent out $4,000 or $5,000 in coupons a month. We had no idea what came back. Like, we had no idea, okay, do we do it again the next month?
Right.
Was it a waste?
Right.
With Zuza, we give you a full report. You sent out $1,000 in coupons. It generated $7,000 in profit.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
so
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that was actually the next thing that I was gonna bring up, which is, on the other side of this, from a data perspective, it's not just about collecting the data on the front end, right? It's also about, something that MailChimp and Constant Contact and Drip and these others are trying to do, but they really have a very difficult time. It's really impossible for them to get the visibility, is what did that turn into?
Right.
And that's what you have, because you also have the data on the back end, which says, okay, of the people that received this email, how many of them came in and bought? Like, maybe they didn't all use the coupon, how many of them clicked on it and then they came back in and bought, or maybe and again, where do they buy? Well, did they buy in the store? Did they buy online? Did they buy with a phone order? So I think that's the key, is having that data. Again, it's like, I think our industry doesn't have a clear understanding the way that like Square and PayPal and Stripe, I mean, they all get it. It's like, this is a data game, and whoever has the most data wins, but as long as you're giving your customer the opportunity to leverage the data. And that's what you're doing. So, okay. So I love all of that. I do want to transition here just a little bit, because I want to talk about some changes. And I know you and I had a good conversation about this the other day. So, historically, Zuza has really kind of claimed, one of the big claims to fame has been the white label program that you do for the ISOs. And we'll talk about that in a second. But I know that lately you've really streamlined the idea for the individual agent. So you've got the individual agent. They're not trying to, they don't need their own brand. They just need a really good software to go sell that needs to be processor agnostic. So talk a little bit for us about what that's like and what your focus is now with these individual agents, and give them a little tip of like, where should they go to learn more? Give them some ideas of what they could do to actually sell the software.
Absolutely. We've had a little bit of a pivot, as you just mentioned, right? Where historically speaking, Zuza made its splash in the industry because we are one of the few true white label platforms. So if someone wants a white label mobile app, white label online ordering, white label POS, I mean, we do it all, right? But starting this month, actually, January 1st, 2022, one of the things we've started to do is we do have a different requirement now. So we're not allowing everyone to kind of go the reseller white label model, right? We want more people to start off the agent route and then, graduate to the reseller model. Obviously, that doesn't apply to your true ISOs and true banks, but the independent guy, if you're a 1 or 2 man shop, we're now putting them on this agent program, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier, right? There's no commitment. You board a merchant or two. You could try it out. For everyone listening on this call today, we're going to do 60 days free software for them and their merchants to try it out. So no commitment, and we know they're going to love it. So try it out, no charge to them for 60 days. After 60 days, when the merchant likes it, we just bill them directly, right? So it really costs the agent nothing. So all of your listeners can sell the Zuza system tomorrow for free. And that's really the route we want to take with a lot of our independent agents and even our smaller ISOs, right? The 1, 2, 3 man shops. That's where we're going. And again, there's no financial commitment up front. It's free to get started.
And just to clarify, that's not only free to the agent to get started, also now free to the merchant. So our listeners, and you'll give us some information about where to go to learn more about this, I'm sure, but they'll be able to go and say tomorrow, they could go out to a merchant and say, hey, here's Zuza, here's all these different things that you can do with Zuza, and I'm going to let you try it out free for 60 days and no software fees. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
If they don't like it, they can walk after 60 days. So, or during the 60-day period. So that's what we're doing for all the CC Sales Pro listeners, because again, we love your audience, we love the show, and that's really something new that we didn't offer in years past. Because again, we made our splash in the industry. It was mostly designed for your mid to large size ISOs, and that's still by far one of our largest portfolios and groups is the larger banks and larger ISOs and mid-size ISOs. But we want to try to get as many of these independent agents now on board as well by offering them a program like this. And again, no commitment, no starting period, nothing. And then if 6 months down the road they say, you know what, we love it, let's talk white label, we'll have that discussion then, right? But at least now, where with the white label, there is a financial commitment up front. At least now there's no commitment.
Right. They can just jump in, get it going, and try it out. So, Danny, where would you send people that want to learn more about that? They want to get started. Where should they go to learn more?
Send us an email. You can go to our website, www.getzuza.com. Okay, so GETZUZA.com. Or you could send us an email to info@getzuza.com. Either way. If you go to our website, there's a section up there that says contact us. So GETZUZA.com. And reach out to us there, and one of our associates will get back to you guys in a timely fashion.
Awesome. Danny, as always, such a pleasure having you on. Really appreciate it.
I love it.
Be sure to mention the Merchant Sales Podcast so that you can benefit from what Danny's offering.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, Danny. Thanks again.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Patty.
Awesome, Dan. Thanks.
So, Patty, again, Valor Paytech, the official sponsor of the podcast. So excited. Love their terminals.
Yeah.
If you're looking for selling standalone terminals or you want a standalone terminal that integrates with a gateway, simple, easy to support, easy to sell, go to ccsalespro.com/Valor, VALOR.
And now, here is questions from the field with James Shepard.
So, Patty, I'm going to tackle an interesting topic today. I'm going to talk about some of the letters that are coming from the state attorney general offices, specifically in New York, but other states as well, regarding cash discounting and surcharging programs. Now, this one is definitely a segment where I need to start out by saying that neither Patty or I, we are not legal experts. We're not attorneys. This is not legal advice. We're not financially liable for anything you do with this information, whether you choose to use it or not. So let's start off with that, because this is an interesting topic because each subject is a little bit different. So the reason I'm saying this now is I actually got an email from an agent in the industry that I know pretty well, has a established office, and he got his first one of these letters from the state attorney general's office. And so we have a consultant call us next week to talk about that specific situation. And
now,
again,
I heard of the ones out of Florida. Was this out of Florida or was
no, this is New York.
New York. Okay.
Yeah. Now the ones in Florida that have been coming out are kind of baffling, actually. And we talked about that in a previous It's kind of like, I don't even know what they're trying to really say. They're citing a law that's already been deemed unconstitutional that the attorney general there has already said they're not going to enforce.
Right.
My advice there is very different. In New York, the issue is that they do have a law on record that makes virtually every surcharge and cash discount program for a physical location business illegal. So
really,
and it really does actually. So the issue there is their law, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, so bear with me, but their law basically says you can't do anything with these programs that necessitates a calculation by the consumer.
Okay.
So you can't say we add 50 cents to something. You can't say we add 3%, because whatever you're doing there, that means they would have to calculate what they're going to pay. They don't know exactly what they're going to pay when they're deciding to buy it. And so as a result of that law, it's really difficult. And so even, really established compliance expert, surcharge type companies in the state of New York are primarily making this available to card not present environment where it's pretty easy to show a cash and a credit price. But in the physical stores, unless you're going to show two prices, you're going to have a bit of a problem. Now, here's the irony though. So I want to zoom out for a minute on this. So the irony is I'm fairly convinced I'm New York and Florida are in a bit of a tie, I would say right now, but I'm fairly convinced that New York has the highest saturation for non-cash adjustment and service fee programs of any state in the United States.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Florida might be right there with them. It's pretty close.
California might be pretty close as well.
Well, actually, no. California, because California had that lingering legislation about the surcharge ban that they just lifted not too long ago.
Right.
People were a little bit more leery in California to do it.
Interesting, yeah. Because I got the first places I saw were in California.
Yes. Okay. So and there are some there, but the difference was in New York and Florida, those states have also the highest saturation of merchant level salespeople.
Okay.
That have been pushing the program. And so it's really more driven by that than anything else, to be honest.
Right. Sure.
So what do we do about this? Well, there's a couple of approaches that I want to mention here and a couple of things I just want to clarify. So number one, it's very important when you look at these letters, and again, I have to be a little cautious with this one. So it's very important when you look at these letters that you understand exactly what the Attorney General's office is asking you to do and exactly what penalties they are willing to impose if you don't. Okay. So there is a decision to be made here by you, by the merchant. Hopefully you're getting an attorney involved, things like this, but there's decisions to be made here. So there's several things that can happen. So again, understanding that like pretty much, most businesses that are doing this program, they're probably in a community with 500 or 600 other businesses that are doing the exact same program. So the first thing that I would say here is number one, and most importantly, we are at a point in the evolution of cash discounting and surcharging. It's time to have a conversation with your merchants if they are not properly educating the consumer about the intention of their program, and maybe as important, if they are being in any way rude or obnoxious about the way that they are imposing it.
Yes.
And by that, I'm by extension, of course, I mean their employees.
Their employees, of course. Yes.
Right. So let me just say, number one, if you are in the state of New York and you have a merchant that does not understand that business owners in general are fighting together to be able to do these programs, and as a result, it's incumbent upon them that if any consumer has a concern, waive the stupid fee.
Yes. Okay.
If they're not doing that, if you are not enabling them to do that, you are crazy and you are hurting everybody.
Right.
Okay. Right. And that one merchant is hurting everybody because
you're only going to have maybe 1 out of 1,000 customers who's going to raise Harry.
Right. So and you may have 1 out of 100, 1 out of 60, somewhere in that range that will say something. They're not like super upset.
Right.
You don't really know how upset they are.
They're
like,
this?
What is this fee? And that's where you have your no surprise policy. The no surprise policy says if a customer is surprised by the fee, waive the fee for them that time. Okay. So that's the most important piece of advice I can give you, because once the merchant gets this letter, it is a little bit tricky to walk back because ultimately the program you're doing probably is breaking that specific law.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you there, Now, Now let's say, unfortunately, this happened, a customer complains. Because again, it's not like the attorney general of these states, at least not to my knowledge, they're not like going out there and doing this. Now, I did hear that Visa and MasterCard do have mystery shoppers now
really?
that are doing a little bit of this, and they're notifying the state attorney general's office, that kind of thing. So there's a little bit of that going on too. But the idea is, no surprise is important. But then if you do get the letter, a couple things about it. The key is to work with an attorney or someone to make a response. And again, depending on the severity of the letter and where they're at in this process, because they may have no option other than to say, sorry, you can't do the program right now. Like, maybe we can reinstate it in a year. Let's see how legislation goes. This is a recent change. So that's on the table. I want to make that really clear here. There are absolutely cases where they are doing something illegal relative to the law. I don't know anyone. I mean, I'm not saying it's like they need to go to jail. I'm just saying speeding is illegal, and breaking the speed limit is illegal. And in the state of New York, doing a non-cash adjustment program where there's a calculation, probably by the attorney general's definition, would be illegal. So what you have to understand is, if they get one of these letters, you may have to go in there and say, look, this is the state attorney general. There's tons of businesses that are doing it, so this is totally unfair to you, but this is a recent change. And it's a slap on the wrist. How you choose to respond to it is up to you. One possible option on one extreme is to fix the problem. Okay. The other extreme is to do nothing and just to keep doing the program as it is. They don't always request a response. And so sometimes, and again, I got to be careful. This is not legal advice. I'm not liable for anything. I'm just trying to tell you the reality of what's happening in these states. Okay. So a lot of times what happens is nothing. They don't do anything. The attorney general doesn't ask for a response. The danger there is the same customer comes back in 3 months later. You have the same program. They reach back out again, second complaint. Now you get a more strongly worded letter, second or third time is the charm. Next thing you know, you got a problem. And the problem is they're going to come and either fine you. They're going to, they can sue, the state can sue you for all fees you've charged to all consumers since the beginning of time for this program. That kind of thing has happened in a couple of states. So you do have to be very careful and very cautious with this, but you can go the other extreme, which is just don't respond and don't change anything and see what happens. And sometimes that's actually the best approach, in my opinion, in some situations. Okay. Again, depending on a lot of criteria.
But again, even if you don't respond and there's a likelihood that customer's coming back, make sure that you have a policy in place to waive the fee.
And again, to communicate the purpose of the program. This program was not put in place to screw the customer. This program was put in place so we didn't have to raise our prices for everybody.
Right.
We could have raised our prices for everybody, but we didn't want to do that. We only wanted to do a price increase that would, we didn't want to negatively impact our customers that pay with cash. Right. So that's the key. You gotta position that right off the bat. The signage has to position that, everything. But then the middle road is to make a response. And make a response that asserts that what this merchant is doing is actually a cash discount. And you can even make that response such that the merchant has made some changes. So you could say, and again, don't quote me here, this is not legal language, but the idea would be, I've done responses before and said, thank you for bringing our attention to this matter. We were unaware of this particular legislation, which is probably true on the merchant's behalf. We were unaware of this legislation. We have made the changes necessary to ensure that we are offering a compliant cash discount program to our customers. That's vague.
Right.
It doesn't really say much. What exactly did you change? What did you do? But it just says, hey, we believe this is a compliant cash discount program and we've made changes. That could mean we've changed the sign to represent some additional language, whatever the case might be. And so that's a good middle of the road. I generally like that approach because it gives them a response and it shows down the road if something happens again. It's not like you just ignored the attorney general of your state, which is not a great idea.
Not a good idea.
Yeah. So instead, it's like, hey, we made a response. We did make some adjustments and some changes. Okay, apparently that still wasn't up to snuff. But understand, there are thousands, probably 10 or 15,000 businesses in the state of New York that are doing this program, and only a handful of them have ever gotten a letter from the state attorney general. So the odds are you may not ever get another letter. And if you respond positively, that's enough to end the process. So there's your three approaches. So again, I realize this was maybe not the most helpful because it's a little bit vague, because I just can't, if you're one of my consulting clients, I'd be happy to get more specific, but I have to have a non-disclosure agreement and all of these things and have written stuff that I'm not an attorney and all that. So this was a little bit of a tough one to cover, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that, the big thing I want to get across is, you shouldn't get terrified and scared when you see that your merchant got a letter from the state attorney general. it's going to happen. If you have 50, 60 cash discount merchants or more, you're going to get a letter. One of them is going to get a letter. I mean, it's going to happen in a lot of these states, not some of the states, but especially if it's in New York or some of these other states, like even like California, they're going to get a letter. And when they do, you don't need to freak out about that. You need to back up and look at the reality of it. What are they demanding, if anything? Are they asking for a response? Right? That's important. If they're not asking for a response, you don't have to respond. So do they want a response? And what exactly are they saying? This is important. Like, what exactly are they saying that this merchant is doing that is either illegal or not compliant or whatever? You got to understand the specifics of it and then get an expert involved. Like I said, I'm glad to deal with it as a consultant. There are industry attorneys that would be glad to help. I can make a recommendation there. So get a little bit of help if you do need to do a response and think through it a bit. But again, generally speaking, it's not a one strike and you're out type scenario.
Right.
Most of the time you have a couple times to figure this out, but you don't want to get to that second or third strike. But that's a problem. When you get to strike number 2, you better just stop the program for a little while. Let the heat clear, figure out what's going on. We don't want to have a situation where we're in the paper as, such and such payment processing, was doing this program that was illegal for this merchant and they got fined $60,000. You really don't want that. So,
but even before that, even before the first letter, you really need to educate merchants and educate them to educate their frontline people and be willing to waive the fee for that 1% of people who might have a problem with it. And if you do that, the chances of you getting these letters from the Attorney General are far less.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, bit of a rambling one today. Hopefully you got something out of it. And again, when you get these letters, the big takeaway is educate your customers, as Patty just said before, so you don't, avoid getting them. If you do get them, it's okay. Pause. It's not like the Attorney General is not like waiting for you to call. You're okay. You can take a couple weeks. You can figure out what you need to do, take a chill and just relax, figure out what they really want and analyze it. And then figure out the best case scenario on this from, usually taking a middle path is the best one. So hopefully that's a help. Hope everybody has a great week.
Thanks, Shane.
This is the Insider's Report with Patty Murphy.
Okay. So, James, a few weeks ago, I reported on Amazon how it was going to be blocking Visa cards issued in the UK.
Right.
And, Amazon was miffed because, after Brexit, Interchange went up in the UK. And, we speculated, you and I, that it was a negotiating tactic, but then it got pretty close to the date and they still hadn't pulled on the brakes.
Yeah.
Well, the day after we recorded that podcast, they pulled the brake.
Okay.
So they are, at least in the way they announced it to their shoppers, was that it's let's just say they left the door open for banning Visa cards again.
Right.
But now it seems U.S. retailers have been emboldened by Amazon's success in the UK. And they're asking Congress to intervene.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know about this. Okay.
Yes. The Merchant Payments Coalition, which is made up of trade associations that represent all the various retailers. It's NRF and NACS and, all the various, different trade groups. They sent a letter to leaders of the House and Senate Banking Committee urging action to promote competition in retail card payments. It's interesting thing about the Merchant Payments Coalition, or MPC, is how they go, the name they go by. This was a group founded several years ago, pretty much to just lobby against the card brands. And in fact, they were the guys that came up with the notion of swipe fee. To characterize Interchange as a swipe fee.
Yeah,
which, was a pretty, it was a coup in my mind.
Yeah.
So, quote, U.S. merchants large and small are closely watching the Amazon Visa developments in the UK and hope that U.S. policymakers are doing the same, the group wrote in its letter to Congress. The letter explains how the rising interchange is worse in the U.S. than in the UK. We know that interchange here is upwards of 4 times what the UK merchants pay, and yearly total interchange is about 100 times as high. But, of course, we have to take into account that our market is much bigger.
Right,
in the
of course.
UK.
Yeah, but still it goes to show that, normally the more volume, the more, if I go to, like Danny's point earlier, I mean, if I go to Costco and I buy 100 rolls of toilet paper, I expect to pay a lower price than if I buy a pack of 4. I expect to pay a lower price per roll. In the US, we are buying, lots of interchange, and it's costing us more per transaction and much more overall.
Right. And then, the pandemic has created what these guys refer to as an unearned windfall for the card brands. A lot of commerce, a lot of buying has moved online where virtually everything is plastic, and the rates and the interchange rate is higher.
Yep.
Interchange is also driving up inflation, and I hadn't thought about this before, but the group said that every time prices go up, interchange is collected on a larger base amount, creating a multiplier effect.
Yeah,
now,
I didn't really think about that. And it's on such a large percentage of the transactions.
Right.
Yeah, that's a real driver.
I think that goes to another point they made, which is that the interchange collected by the card brands over the last 10 years has increased by over 100% here in the U.S. Now, again, that's based on rising interchange, more commerce moving to the online channel, inflation. There's a lot of contributions to that, but their point is that, this is a lot of money for a lot of transactions.
It really is. Yeah, it really is.
They said, I'm going to quote their letter here, merchants want to be heard, but they don't have the ability to reject either Visa or MasterCard to do so. The answer, they said, is transparency and competition that would allow market forces to result in reasonable swipe fees where all parties can benefit. Since the card industry has chosen not to compete on its own, it's up to policymakers to find a way to make this happen.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what's interesting. I feel like, I think it was our last episode, you were talking about the B2B.
Mm-hmm.
If there ends up being legislation about payment processing this year, I'm going to start looking pretty smart.
I know, right?
Just a few weeks ago, I said,
because we said this a few weeks ago. We said, chances are this is going to go, and
it's actually,
folks, you heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So between your predictions about B2B, mine about the legislation, and then we'll see what happens.
Both of our predictions about interchange. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting too. Again, I bring it up all the time, but it's, within the context of surcharging and cash discounting, I think it's such an easy out for policymakers at this point.
Yes.
To say in the U.S., right? Because again, the U.S. is so different from the UK.
We're a very unique market. We really are.
And, as a general rule, the U.S. market does tend to turn to regulation as a last resort. Mm-hmm. Capitalism is kind of the default, and I'm happy about that. It's worked out well for me, but I get it. There's a place for regulation as well. But I think what's interesting here is, if policymakers want to have their cake and eat it too, they can come back and say, okay, fine. We're just going to allow any kind of surcharge on any kind of card in any kind of situation.
Yes.
Now you have a free market, retailers. Good luck.
Yes.
That's the easiest.
I think that's the way to go, right?
Yeah, it's the easiest swing for them. And so I think it's definitely going to be more than that over time. I think it's going to be much more regulation over time. But to me, and even when you look at the wording of their letter, they say, we need you to promote a free market where, we have the ability. Well, what other solution is there? What are policymakers supposed to do here?
They can't micromanage rates. That they already tried that with the Durbin Amendment, and how well did that work? Right?
Exactly.
But if they can clarify that surcharging and cash discounting should not be banned, that's a free market response to rising rates.
Right.
Then they have their cake and they can eat it too. And I think personally, that's a policy that would resonate well on both sides of the political alley.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I do. Because again, I think on the left, there's definitely the reality that lower income individuals are using more cash, more debit, things of that nature. Then you have on the other side of the aisle, you have the free market capitalism approach. And so, I think it does nice here, both. So who knows? Maybe policyholders may not agree with us. Maybe they don't all listen to this podcast, Patty. But in this case, they probably should listen to this episode. But I do think that would be a really easy swing for them. That would be bipartisan. They could get it done. So it'd be very interesting to see how it plays out. Definitely keep us posted on this. Now, I'm assuming we haven't heard anything from policymakers. It's not like they've responded.
Not yet. In fact, this letter, we're recording this today on the 25th. This letter went out on the 22nd. So
this is
pretty
brand new.
fresh.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, definitely keep us up to date on this. This is a very interesting one for sure.
I will, for sure. Thanks, James.
Thank you for listening to the Merchant Sales Podcast. Whether you are an industry veteran, processing executive, or just trying to learn about the payment space, we appreciate your time. The Merchant Sales Podcast is a joint production of greensheet.com and ccsalespro.com, and we hope you will tune in next week for more information and tips on building your merchant services business.